So should we bring in the closer? And
I think it'd be a good time for that.
All right.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 67 of the Free Baseball Podcast presented by theathleteshub.org. As always, I am Davis Bird, and joined by I'm running out of superlatives, Jake, for Mr. Jake Crumpler, also of Athletes Hub. We're here to talk baseball, specifically all-star stuff, home run derby, all-star stuff. But first, as always, we'll talk about hot weeks. So, since July 5th, since we've sort of been interrupted by the All-Star game, we're just going to have since the 5th, which is not that long. But our hitter is going to be Francisco Alvarez of the New York Mets, who is currently one of the only hitters there not Metsing. He hit .474 on base percentage, .524 slugging percentage, .947. Really good. Scored 4 runs, 3 dingers, 7 RBIs, worth .6 fWAR for Francisco Alvarez. Like, he would maybe have a case to be NL Rookie of the Year if Corbin Carroll was not completely ridiculous.
He'd be in the conversation for sure. Yeah. I mean, just from being a catcher that can actually hit. But there's definitely some stiff competition in the NL this year. But I think Alvarez was sort of underperforming expectations. We were sold that he was like a top 3 prospect in baseball and that he would be an immediate impact behind the plate and at the dish. And so far, sort of underwhelming, but this past week has assuaged some of those fears that he might be a little bit of a bust. He is still really young. He's 21 years old right now, and he debuted last year. So he's already been seeing 2 different seasons in the majors, and he's still only 21 years old, but he's a very good hitter, a lot of power, 12.5% barrel rate. Very solid right now. He's got 17 home runs already, like on pace for 25, can possibly reach 30. Great season from a 21-year-old catcher like that. That's pretty amazing. And this past week he was on fire, just blasting home runs every other day and having a few multi-hit nights, which was really cool to see. The Mets don't really have a lot to root for this year. So, having a bright future to get excited about is probably the best you could hope for.
Definitely. That .6 fWAR comprises a large chunk of his fWAR for the season. He's worth 1.9 on the season. So .6 in a single week is pretty good. I think in the last week, he hit like the longest home run of the Mets season or something like that too, which is pretty wild. I had the thing pulled up, but it has really taken forever. So I cannot quite tell you what that is, but everyone knows about the crazy power that he has. 467 feet, which is kind of crazy for a team that has like Pete Alonso and some other crazy power hitters. But yeah, he hit a go-ahead home run, 467 feet, longest of the Mets season. And then another one, hometown kid for Jake's favorite team, Logan Webb of the San Francisco Giants against the Rockies, our favorite team, on the 9th. Complete game shutout, even 9 innings pitched, obviously it's a complete game. 7 hits, no earned, no walks, which is also really good in a complete game shutout. 10 strikeouts and 14 whiffs, which is good for a 34% call strikes plus whiffs percentage. Very, very good for Logan Webb, who has been quietly extremely good again. He's like the picture of consistency as a starter, and he just sort of has, I want to say he has like sort of years, but it's genuinely just not been the case because he's been that level of consistent. He's just excellent. He's just a really good starter that a lot of people don't put in the upper echelon of like, yeah, this guy's one of the best starters in the National League.
And somehow he was not on the All-Star team, and his teammate Alex Cobb got selected. Yeah, so there were a few late additions that we didn't get to discuss because of the timing of our podcasts, but one of them was Logan Webb not making the All-Star team, but instead Alex Cobb making it. And while I love having all the Giants making the All-Star team, that's awesome, and Alex Cobb has had a great season, I don't know what the argument is for Alex Cobb over Logan Webb. Webb is leading all of baseball in innings pitched, 126, and that comes with a 3.14 ERA and a 1.11 whip, striking out more than 25% of batters, has a sub 5% walk rate. He's got the second best ground ball rate in baseball among starters, and he's just the boy. He went to the same high school as my ex, so definitely seen him play some high school football in the past. So big fan of his. His dad follows me on Twitter, so even more of a fan. But how is he not an all-star by itself? How is he not an all-star? But then how did Alex Cobb get selected over him? I know that probably has something to do with the manager selecting there and a little bit of the players vote, but like, do they not like Logan Webb or something? I'm so flabbergasted. I don't know how it's not Webb over Cobb there, but I guess I'll take any Giants All-Star.
Definitely. That complete game shutout is the first complete game shutout of his career, which is very nice.
Surprising.
Congratulations it is surprising because he feels like a starter that consistently goes like 7.
Yeah.
Like
he's only
6
26, I
plus
guess.
7.
Giants are pretty advanced.
Workhorse. And the Giants, with the aid of Logan Webb and All-Star Alex Cobb, they have actually ended the first half at the All-Star break. They're in the third wild card spot. So
that's right.
Big second half upcoming for
World
the
Series.
Giants. Yeah. It's I guess we're in an odd year, so
that's wrong. It was even year bullshit, like they like to call it.
Well, Jake, this can be the start of the new dynasty. They'll do an odd.
That's right. Yeah. So we did the even year, and now it's time for the
odd years.
So every year from 2023 through 2027, and the odd years, we're going to win a championship. That would be dope.
That'd be cool.
In the Dodgers' faces.
That would be very cool. Players of the week. As always, we do this too. Players of the week in the AL, Logan Gilbert of Seattle Mariners. And in the NL is the San Diego Padres, Manny Machado.
Yes. Logan Gilbert. You were just talking about him before the show. Somebody was saying that they should trade him.
Incredibly stupid. They're like, oh, I saw a stupid TikTok, and the guy was like, yeah, the Mariners need some pieces. And he's like, they have some guys they could trade, like Logan Gilbert. Yeah, they have pitchers in their like minor league system. Why on earth would they trade Logan Gilbert? It makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah, so I think he earned this nomination because he himself threw a complete game shutout on the 4th of July versus the San Francisco Giants in San Francisco. Tossed 9 scoreless innings with just 5 hits, no walks, and 7 Ks. He had 22 whiffs and a 31% CSW. Pretty incredible outing. I mean, Logan Gilbert's been a very solid pitcher in his career. He's also only 26. This is his 3rd year. And so far in his career, he's got a 3.75 ERA, just very solid. Last year was pretty great. But it did feel like he does have another level to him. And while he sort of has reached that in terms of the strikeout and walk rate departments, it hasn't really bore out in a sub 3 ERA or anything, but he is a very solid pitcher with the ability to toss over 180 innings and be out there every day. And I mean, this is a former 1st round pick. I think Logan Gilbert's been living up to the hype, and it's been great to watch this year. Unfortunately, Mariners not too great, so it hasn't really led to a lot of winning, but I think Logan Gilbert is the guy that I really like, and I still feel like there's a bit of untapped potential there, and he can be like a true ace with a close to 30% strikeout rate and a sub 3 ERA.
Definitely. So Logan Gilbert for his last 2 starts, he's gone 16 innings, 13 strikeouts, just 1 earned. And that complete game shutout on the 4th of July was the first for the Mariners since 2019. Any guess as to who that pitcher was, Jake?
What was the question?
So Logan Gilbert's 4th of July complete game shutout is the first complete game shutout for the Mariners.
Marco Gonzalez.
29. No, close. It's a lefty.
What? It is a lefty?
Lefty for the Mariners.
James Paxton.
It was Yusei Kikuchi.
Wow.
I
don't think I would have guessed that. Forgot he's on the Mariners.
Against his team that he currently pitches for, the Toronto Blue Jays. And then I found this one, in case you like don't follow Mariners Twitter. Like Mariners Twitter is really good. There's this guy, and his name's Depressed Mariners Fan. So shout out to that guy. He posted this, and it says Logan Gilbert since September 1st, 2022. So since the back half of last season, he has gone for 144 and a third innings pitched, which would be 15th in all of baseball. He has a 3.24 ERA, which is 14th, 3.2 FIP, 11th. His 3.5 xFIP, which would be 13th, 3.5 SIERA, which is also 14th. And then he has a 5.44 strikeout to walk ratio, or strikeout to walks, and then a 21.1% strikeout to walk percentage. And he'd be worth like 3.4 and some change FWAR, which would have him in the top 10 for pitchers in all of baseball, which is really good for a guy that a lot of people think they should trade for no reason. So, Logan Gilbert really quietly very good. And then Manny Machado, usually not very quietly good. Everyone sort of like sings the praises of Manny Machado being a great player, but he's been pretty bad this year, sort of picking up the pace, and wins player of the week. for the NL, obviously, since that's where he plays.
Yeah, he got off to a really slow start this year, like incredibly slow. I think a lot of people were pretty disappointed because he's sort of the driving force for the Padres in that they've got a lot of stars, but he's the centerpiece of it all. He's the guy that is the solid rock there that keeps everybody going. When somebody's cold, he's the one who's going to be there to pick up the rest of the team, and that has not been the case. But since going on the IL on May 15th, he returned on June 2nd. So since the beginning of June, basically, he's batted .295 with a 141 WRC plus and 10 home runs. I mean, to me, that sounds like old Manny Machado. And recently he's been even better since the beginning of July. So just in 9 days, he had 6 of those 10 home runs and batted .406. So you can tell why he earned Player of the Week honors, but he's definitely figuring things out. This is the one guy that I think you just always have to bet on, even if you don't agree with him politically or you don't like him as a player or a person. Manny Machado, I think, is one of the most consistent players, and I think he's on his way to being a Hall of Famer after all is said and done. But yeah, I mean, just a couple of years ago, I think it was when he first started in San Diego, he had like that really terrible first half. You remember that?
Yeah, it was.
And then people were.
It was him and Harper. They both signed the big contract, and they started out slow by their standards, and everyone's like, "Oh, these guys suck."
Yeah. People were blaming the park a lot, and I bought in. In our fantasy league that Davis is now a part of, I hopped in and I swooped him up. I traded for him from Casey, and he had a pretty solid second half. It wasn't what I expected. I sort of want to check what he did, but yeah, you sort of have to believe that he's going to turn things around. So this was 2019. That year in the first half, he batted .266 with 20. What am I looking at? .266 with 20 home runs. And then in the second half, .242 with 12 home runs. That's worse. Maybe I traded for him and then I thought he was going to get better and then he didn't. 116 WRC plus in the first half, 101 in the second half. Yeah, I guess he didn't pick things up, but it was 2019, so it was like the WRC plus is 101 and the guy was probably hitting home runs all the time, and they were just like, "Oh, bro, if you're not like Jeff McNeil hitting 20 home runs, then you sort of suck." So yeah, I guess that's 2019 standards for you, but you know, pick things up since then, and yeah, well on his way to being a Hall of Famer. And you know, as much as you don't like to root for everybody based on like personality and that kind of stuff, I think you got to root for Manny Machado, the baseball player.
Yeah, I like Manny Machado, the baseball player, a lot. You can separate the athlete a little bit too, but Manny Machado also got a nice little accolade. You talked about the ballpark, and that's really cool because I could make the segue. Manny Machado actually surpassed Adrian Gonzalez as the all-time home run leader in Petco Park in San Diego. I think he has 60.
Was quick.
Yes, it is, considering he's only been there since 2019. As of July 7th, he has 67 home runs, specifically just in Petco Park, which is 2 ahead of Adrian Gonzalez, previous record holder. So
he should just
legend.
Hit 2 more and then just call it quits.
Yeah, there you go. Just like,
hey, 67. Maybe that's this episode.
2 more home runs, and then they demolish the stadium.
Yeah, he's like, call it. That's good.
We're never beating that one.
We did it.
But yeah, so that was a cool little factoid. 67 home runs for episode number 67 for us.
Nice.
But that's enough of baseball players that play in the major leagues right now, because we have the draft to talk about. So obviously we had the All-Star. We had the All-Star game. We had the Home Run Derby, and that's all fun and games, literally, because we're going to talk about that in a minute or two. But we had to talk about the first-year player draft since MLB sort of revamped it, and there's a little bit going on just to talk about. So we'll run that down. I will hand it off to you for this segment, Jay. You can be the hostess with the mostest for this.
Great. Yeah. MLB draft. I feel like one of the most exciting times in the year. I think both of us are big fans of prospects, and this is sort of the prospects of the prospects, right? This is the next generation before we even got the next generation. But yeah, it's really fun to project these things and sort of provide hope to your team. And it's also fun because it's a draft. You get to sort of crap on teams that make goofy picks or say how smart your home team is or how smart whatever team is. And it's fun to project these guys. But yeah, I mean, we can just start it off from the top. There was sort of a consensus 1-2, and
Mhm.
we saw both of them go back to back. So we can go with number 1, and it's big Paul Skeens, who was selected first overall by the Pittsburgh Pirates. He's a 21-year-old right-handed pitcher out of Louisiana State University. The guy's got an 80 grade fastball. That's as good as it gets, and a 70 grade slider. And he was pre-draft ranked by MLB Pipeline as the number 1 prospect heading into this draft. And he was incredible. He won College World Series MVP as he led the Tigers to the College World Series championship. And there are some reports that consider him the best college pitching prospect since Steven Strasburg, which that is high hype because Steven Strasburg was crazy at San Diego State.
Yeah, he is. And also they have the 80 grade fastball, 70 grade slider. He has an 80 grade mustache. If you haven't
That's
seen
right.
Paul Skeens, that guy, he looks like an old timey pitcher. There's a lot of clips of him like with the crazy mustache and with the tight pants, or with the stirrups. That's gas. Like that's an awesome baseball look.
Yeah.
And not for nothing, I know we usually use the rankings from MLB Pipeline, MLB.com. But Bleacher Report does their own top 100 prospects list, and Paul Skeens is currently listed at 10th. He just got drafted. He's in the top 10 for their prospects. And I think he's the real deal. The guy is really good.
Yeah.
Obviously has the 80 grade fastball, huge fastball, but that slider's disgusting. I think it had it had like a whiff rate in like the 60s or something during the College World Series. It's virtually unhittable. But yeah, he is really, really good. And I think along with the guy that we're going to talk about in a second, the consensus 1-2 was definitely there. And a lot of people were talking about the Pirates with this next guy, but I think based on their current roster construction, because Paul Skeens could probably be up within a year. He's that good. If he doesn't really, really crumble in the minors, there's a chance he could be up because he's on the older sort of end of prospects. He's obviously a college pitcher.
Yeah.
But the stuff will play very well. But I don't know. I would like to see him up as soon as possible. That's the one downside to the MLB draft is a lot of these guys, especially high school hitters and pitchers, you won't see them for 3-4 years. But guys like this, you have a chance to see within a year and a half. So that's why I really like Paul Skeens. And we can talk about this next guy, the consensus 1.5, 2.
Yeah. We've seen some guys come up really fast recently. I know we were talking about Zach Neto for a second. That guy was drafted last year.
Yeah.
And
last
he's
year,
already
and then, Ben Joyce
in the majors.
Also got called up.
Exactly. So yeah, there's definitely the ability for teams for prospects to come up really fast. And for someone like Skeens, who's super advanced, has tons of hype, and is on a team that is opening its window right now, where it's they're going to need an ace. They're going to need another starter in there that could help
Mitch Keller can do literally everything for him.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is a guy that, he could be up next year helping the team. He could make the opening day roster. This is a guy that's got the ability already to be up there. And I feel like his slider might be better than his fastball. I heard his fastball shape isn't that great. That's something that a major league team can definitely help out. But I think this will be a lot of fun to watch. And one note that I also saw was the Pirates might not have that ability to draw an ace into town via free agency. And I don't know what they're feeling about trading prospects and stuff. So maybe this was their best avenue to acquiring a future ace. But I think for each of these picks, we should say, hot or not, do you think this guy's going to be legit? I think you already said your answer about Skeens. Hot. Yep.
Yeah. Red hot. I really like Paul Skeens.
I agree. All right. Then we can move on to the consensus other top 2 guy. And that's Skeens' teammate, Dylan Crews, who went number 2 overall to the Washington Nationals. He is a 21-year-old outfielder out of the same school, Louisiana State University. He had a 70 grade hit tool, 60 grade power tool, and 60 grade run. So he is fast AF. He was pre-draft ranked by MLB Pipeline number 2. And to sort of have that same parallel with Skeens and Strasburg, he was considered by some to be the most obvious top pick in a draft since Bryce Harper way back when. And that was another one. Those are hard names to live up to. But Dylan Crews has been the top player in college baseball for a few years now. I know he won the Freshman of the Year award in 2021. And then he obviously won College World Series with LSU this past year. And he also won the Golden Spikes Award, which is basically college MVP. And with him going second overall, with his teammate going number one, they are the first pair of teammates ever to go 1-2 in the MLB draft. And I think they're only the first pair of division mates, or what are they called? Like, what is the SEC? It's not a division.
Division is right.
Okay.
No, it's either conference or division.
Conference.
Ivy conference.
Yeah, they're the third set of conference mates to be drafted 1-2. So this is like very unprecedented by a long way. Yeah, I think the last ones were Alex Bregman of LSU and Dansby Swanson of Vanderbilt. That was that year, 1-2.
Yeah, Dylan Cruz is really good. And the Nationals, like in the last couple of years, looking at the outfield talent they have stacked up is crazy. They've had Bryce Harper, Juan Soto. Now they have a chance to have Dylan Cruz, who seems to be another really, really legitimate
the first round
prospect.
outfielder last year.
Yeah, that's true. Like look at their potential outfield. Even right now, with what this looks like, you could potentially have Dylan Cruz slot into center, or you could have James Wood there, Lane Thomas, and then the other one. Like, and that's not even counting their draft from last year, and then their draft even better. Like
they have Robert Hassel too.
Yeah, they have Robert Hassel.
Elijah Green. I think Elijah Green is the guy they got last year.
That's right. And then you look at the rest of their draft. I know we're only going to go over mostly like the first round and then like a couple other like odds and ends picks.
Sure.
But they also got Yohandy Morales, who they potentially got two of the most talented college bats in the draft. Dylan Cruz and Yohandy Morales in the same draft, which is ridiculous. They had a great draft. I really like Dylan Cruz. I think at least the hitting future is bright with the Nationals. They have some good prospects, and hopefully they can not be terrible for all that long, because nobody wants to see a team like that be miserable. Trading away Juan Soto, I don't know. I really like Dylan Cruz. Hopefully the Nationals can do right with this, but I would say this is another hot pick for me.
Yeah, five tool guy, like consensus number one overall pick. If Skeens didn't have that crazy run to wrap up his college career, but yeah, I'm going hot on Dylan Cruz there, and yeah, National is going to be really exciting in 3 years or so. But we can move on to the number 3 pick, and we have our first high school selection as the Detroit Tigers took Max Clark with the number 3 overall pick. He's an 18-year-old outfielder out of a high school in Indiana. He has 60 grade hit, 70 grade run, 65 grade arm, and a 60 grade fielding tool. He was the number 5 pre-draft rank player. And even before I read this on his MLB Pipeline page, I was just like, that sounds like somebody familiar. That sounds like Pete Crow Armstrong, just like a really good fielder that's fast. And then I'm reading his bio there, and they're just like, yeah, his current comp is Pete Crow Armstrong. I was like, I said it first. I thought it first. So yeah, I see the parallels there. And similar to Dylan Cruz, he was the Gatorade National Baseball Player of the Year. So while Cruz was the college baseball player of the year, Max Clark, the high school baseball player of the year. What do you got on Max Clark?
I like Max Clark. He's obviously a college bat for the Tigers, who are which fits their timeline of perpetually rebuilding.
High school bat.
Yeah, he's a high school bat, which is really, really nice. Have you looked at his high school stats?
Yeah, he was batting like 600 his senior year.
Yeah, he hit 646. He had an 0.808 on base percentage, which is it's almost not real.
Step aside, Barry Bonds.
It's hard to do that in MLB The Show, which is ridiculous. But
yes,
another thing that was pointed out by Eric Sim, King of JUCO, if you follow him on Twitter. But he's from Podunk Town in Indiana, and he parlayed basically making a following on Instagram. Like he has like 300 and I think before the draft, I think it's like 360 something. He had like a 330 something thousand follower like Instagram account that he built up just from playing baseball from the ground up, and really built hype around himself, which is crazy. I think obviously he's got the tools, and he really does fit like the pipeline or the timeline. Not pipeline.
You think so? Weren't they like Tigers supposed to be? I thought they were going to be competitive last year.
Yeah, Jake, but they suck now, and they're probably going to suck for the next 17 years. So it fits. They're just terrible. Like I don't know. I would like for the Tigers to not have to rebuild, and for Max Clark to I feel like if they weren't in like a weird flux sort of state with like what their team looks like, this pick would maybe make less sense. Like they should have probably gone for a college bat or a college anything. But Max Clark here, probably the best talent left that they could have got. And the Tigers suck. They're probably not going to be like that much better next year. I don't know. Hopefully, but yeah, I still would have to go Hott just because the talent is really good. He just doesn't really fit the Tigers what they want to do because the Tigers don't really know what they want to do.
Yeah, I feel that. Yeah. I'm not really sure about this one. I mean, I know he was like a consensus top 5 pick anyway, so I guess he would have been going in this range regardless. And I don't know. I just feel like the ceiling is sort of limited. Like I feel like he's just going to be like, I know Pete Crow Armstrong's great, but I don't know if his bat's going to stick. We're going to see. I think
Pete Crow Armstrong also has better tools in the field too. He's an 80 grade fielder and he's got a better arm. So like,
but I think, I mean, Clark's an 18-year-old. He's going to have time to develop. And so I think what I was going to say is that I think he could be like a great fielder, but I think it's like, I'm 50-50 on the hit tool right now. And while he showed like, I'm incredible in high school, there is a long way to go between now as an 18-year-old before he makes the majors as like a 21, 22-year-old. So we'll see if he can keep that going, hot or not.
I'd still go Hott just because the talent is good for me. I just don't really love the fit with the Tigers. Like, but it also depends on what the Tigers want to do if they ever figure that out. The timeline for them should be to sort of compete for that division right now because it does suck. That division is really bad. It's the worst in baseball. But it's still like the Tigers, you could remove right now. There's at points during the season, you could remove every other team from Major League Baseball and the Tigers would still find a way to lose. Which is just depressing for them. But yeah, I still think the talent level is good. Plus the Instagram following thing that I talked about with the personality that the guy has.
Bro, you're sounding like those scouts in Moneyball.
Yeah. Well, like I get that, but at the same time, you have a team like Detroit, who I don't know about you, but for me, ever since like basically when they were good, like when they had Verlander, they've not had they've not had a face of their team at all. Like, I mean, you could maybe be like, oh, Baez was supposed to be that. They've got Miggy, but Miggy's old. Like, obviously, by the time Max Clark is going to be up, Miggy's not going to be around. They sort of need another face for Detroit because, like, you're really not going to draw very many, especially hitters. You're not going to draw many hitters as free agents to go to Detroit because that ballpark's a cavern. Like, it's a major pitcher's park. You're going to get hosed there. Your stats aren't going to look very good. The team also isn't that great. So, like, potentially having a homegrown superstar like this and being a hitter, center fielder sort of guy, like I feel like that probably fits them what they would really, really hope.
I love how you talk about him like a potential like face of the franchise, and it's like, oh yeah, I mean Spencer Torkelson and Riley Green washed.
They
they suck.
Torkelson does suck, and Riley Green's pretty good, but like,
I don't know. I think Max
Clark, Max Clark with the personality wise is what I'm saying. Like you could have a guy, you know, like potentially a Jazz Chisholm sort of type. Like, well, not like a. Well, I mean, I don't mean it in terms of like they're the same guy, but you could have a guy.
No, I know that. I just there's no way I can see that.
I'm saying that's the potential, and that's the best case scenario for the Tigers. But you have a guy like Jazz Chisholm. The Marlins also have a really bad hitter's part. They also have no free agents like ever want to go to Miami, and then here's a guy that's really fun. That makes this team like exciting. You want to watch them. Obviously, they had Sandy doing great, but then you have Jazz. Like he's obviously on the cover of the show. He does the Euro step, like all that stuff. Like that's what you are hoping Max Clark can be for the Tigers. If you're the Tigers, be like, wow, even if we're still ass, like I don't know, 6 years from now, whenever he's up and actually playing, maybe he'll be exciting and people will care about the Tigers in any sort of modicum. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's probably the only thing I think that they're hoping for. Like, I don't know. Yeah. That's my take behind it. I still would go Hott for that reason.
And I'm going to go not, and I know I'm going to regret that at some point. Which, you know, that's a good thing. I think that's why it's sort of fun to do not, because when you're proven wrong, it's a good thing, right? I mean, somebody's good, and that's what you want to see. So it'll be interesting to see when we get Max Clark in the majors, but that's a guy that's got a interesting path ahead of him. So we can move on to number 4 as Wyatt Langford went to the Rangers with the 4th pick. He's a 21-year-old outfielder out of the University of Florida. He's got a 60 grade hit tool and a 65 grade power tool. MLB Pipeline had him number 3 in the pre-draft rankings. And I think this is maybe the best pure hitter in the draft, as he's not like a fast guy. He's not the best fielder. I hear possibility of him sticking in center, but he just seems like a really good hitter. And he tied the Florida school record with 26 home runs in 2022. And that record was previously and still, I guess, shared with Matt Laporta.
Yeah, Wyatt Langford, a couple outlets actually had him mocked to potentially go number 1, which was crazy, considering you have Paul Skeens and Dylan Cruz. But I like Wyatt Langford a lot. Also, I think a pretty high. I wouldn't give it an 80 grade, but that's a pretty solid graded out baseball name, especially for the Texas Rangers. Wyatt Langford, I think that sort of fits. But he's definitely got a lot of pop. Huge personality too. I don't know if you've seen some of the home run celebrations he's had where he just explodes and goes crazy. That's pretty cool. I'm always a big fan of guys like that with a lot of energy. And this feels sort of like a rich get richer too sort of thing, because the Rangers lineup is completely ridiculous. And now you have a guy that can play a bunch of different positions as a defender. He's obviously an outfielder. He's probably going to stick in a corner. He's not really a center guy, but stick him in a corner. He could also be up relatively soon for the Rangers, who are in their window to compete or to contend. So I like this a lot. He's got huge, crazy bat speed, bigger. He's a bigger dude. Not only did he hit 26 home runs, he hit like 28, 29 doubles or something like that. He has a lot of power. I like Wyatt Langford a lot. Just for this one, I would automatically, before you even ask, I would say this is a hot pick. I really like this guy. One of my favorite picks.
Yeah. No, and I agree. And it's crazy that the Rangers currently leading their division have a 4th overall pick, right? It's wild. Super lucky for them to get that. And I think Langford is really legit, and I think he's going to fit well with that team. Right now, looking at the roster, I don't know. They have Evan Carter in the minors. That's their top prospect right now. And in the outfield, they have Adolis Garcia, Travis Jankowski, and Leody Taveras. I don't think Evan Carter is a center fielder. And he's not a great fielder, and he's not super fast. But I think the 2 corners can go to either of those other guys, and then I don't know, Adolis Garcia can move to DH or whatever, but I think they'll have room for both Carter and Langford in the next couple of years. And I don't know, Rangers slowly building a dynasty.
I don't know if we could call it dynasty until they win.
Well, you can't call it a dynasty. Are they building one?
There may be in that lineup. Honestly, if Evan Carter continues to pan out, if Wyatt Langford does, their team, their lineup in the future is a Death Star, a crazy Death Star. Jonah Heim, obviously Corey Seager, Marcus Semien, and have these 2 guys in the corner with Adolis Garcia. That's a really, really good lineup.
Yeah.
With Nathaniel Loto, I forgot about him. Or Lau, but I really like this pick. That
Brandon Lau.
That's right. That's right. Stupid confusing Rays and all those Rays and Louds. But I love this pick. I think the Rangers are a really solid team, and I really like how they look after this draft just from this pick. They could have punted the rest of the draft, but the fact that they got this guy, I think solid enough.
Yeah. Wyatt Langford hot. So we can move on to number 5, where Walker Jenkins was taken by the Minnesota Twins. He's an 18-year-old outfielder out of a high school in North Carolina, 60 grade hit tool, 60 grade power tool, 60 grade arm. And he was pre-draft ranked number 4 by MLB Pipeline. I didn't see really many notes outside of he was good in high school in North Carolina, one of the best since Josh Hamilton. And it looks like he's got all the tools that you would need to be a really solid right fielder or something. But I don't know. Do you have anything on top of Walker Jenkins? It just feels like a pick that's going to go under the radar, and then he's either going to fizzle out and you're going to be like, wow, Walker Jenkins went number 5 overall, or who is that? Or he's going to come out of nowhere and you're like, dang, they got a steal at number 5.
Yeah. He's He's solid. They also ranked him 60 grade hit and 65 power. I think his speed is relatively underrated. I know they clocked his home to first was like a 4.10, which would put him like literally like right behind like Corbin Carroll and like Garrett Mitchell, which
Give him
like
55 run. What's up with that?
yeah, I don't know. Obviously they have the whole deal with being the best high school hitter from North Carolina since Josh Hamilton. He's got a sweet swing as a lefty. Other than that, I don't really know anything. In terms of the Twins, where this really fits with them, I don't really get it because you're taking a high school hitter while the Twins feels like they might be. I don't know. I don't really know where the Twins stand. It feels like they could potentially be about to just punt away what window they have because they're not. I mean, they're going to win. They could win the division, but they're going to get destroyed by basically any other playoff team because that division's terrible. And then the rest of their team is like sort of getting older, except for their rotation. Which, I mean, if your lineup's garbage, what's really the point? I don't know. It's a weird pick. But I feel like the talent is probably there. I just don't know enough about the guys, so I'm sort of in the middle.
Yeah, and there's not much to sort of read into. I mean, from everything I've seen, it's just like, yeah, he was a really good high school player, and he's got like more power to tap into with the potential of playing center field. And the Twins, I think, and I think they're sort of always they're one of those teams that's always in that like middle ground where they're sort of like the Rays, where it's like we know the Rays are going to compete every year, and the Twins just aren't as smart as the Rays, where they're going to have a very solid team every year, but they're never just going to like go fully out of it. They're like the Brewers of the American League.
Yeah,
where it's just like they have a solid team. You never know if they're gonna like win it or not. Weak division, they'll take it. They got a great rotation right now, but I don't think there's like anybody that's gonna be blocking him or that there's anybody in the minors that's gonna like be coming up with him. Brooks Lee was their first round pick last year. He's a shortstop, so I think there'll be room for him. He's just 18. We probably won't see him for 3 or 4 years, so I think it'll be a while until we actually see how he fits on this team. But I think Walker Jenkins does have a pretty high ceiling. I think he was a consensus top 5 pick, so that's pretty solid if you ask me. But hot or not on Walker Jenkins?
I still don't know where I fall. I think I'd have to go hot just because they still got a top 5 talent in the top 5. So fair enough. I don't know. It feels like the Twins are getting ready to sort of punt away anything like they have a chance towards competing for me. But I don't know. I'll go hot. Sure. I'll be more positive about it. I'll go hot with Walker Jenkins.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah, it's so hard with high schoolers. You just like never really know. I don't know. I feel like it's not fair for me to give him a hot after I gave Max Clark a not, but I guess I'll buy more into Jenkins' power. 6'3", 210 coming out of high school. I'll say hot there, and we'll see how that goes. We can move on to one of our teams finally making their first pick with the 6th overall pick. The Oakland A's selected Jacob Wilson, a 21-year-old shortstop out of Grand Canyon University. He's got a 65 grade hit tool. MLB Pipeline had him ranked number 10 on their pre-draft list, and he's actually a son of a former baseball player, Jack Wilson. I don't know if you remember him. He was sort of an obscure guy. He was a shortstop. I think he played for like the Mariners and the Pirates. He was more of like a field guy. But what makes Jacob Wilson stand out is I don't know if he's got like the exit velocities and stuff, and he may be a second baseman, but man, this guy can make contact. 2.4% strikeout rate in 2023 in college. And while that is the college level, Luis Arias is striking out like 5% of the time. So 2%, that's like less than half of what Arias is doing. That's bonkers. And if Wilson can display that level of contact, I mean, that's going to play no matter what. There is the possibility that he just ends up being like David Fletcher, which I guess that's fine. But yeah, I feel like there's not a lot of upside in this pick, but I do love the contact skills.
Yeah, it's weird for me to want to like read into those stats. Like, oh yeah, he doesn't strike out very much. He also went to Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon is a private Christian school in Colorado, like or Arizona or something like that. And they're playing in a conference where the talent level is very subpar. But sure. Jacob Wilson, I also don't know if you still follow Eric Sim or anything like that. He did the gas for cash thing. Jacob Wilson at GCU threw 95 for 3 pitches just in street clothes. The guy's got a good arm. It's a good fielder, good shortstop. Doesn't strike out very much, but this feels like an A's pick. It's like a dude that just sort of fits the A's. Maybe he'll be pretty solid, but it's sort of a weird, obscure guy that sort of fits what they want.
They've missed on a lot of their first round picks recently.
Yeah. They suck, man. I don't know. I don't know how to be. I don't know how to be nicer, man. They just
sure.
Well, really.
I'm going hot mostly because of the genetics there. I feel like just having that mindset of like having a father that was in the MLB, you get the tutelage of your father and stuff. And while I don't think he's got the same ceiling as the other guys, I think that ability to have the floor of making contact like he does and starting out at shortstop, I think he's got a pretty high floor there. And you spoke about him throwing really hard. I forgot to mention that Paul Skeens had like the highest exit velocities among any of the hitters at like they did a draft combine, and Skeens was like the best in the exit velocity department. And I would love for him to be a two-way player, and I don't think it's going to happen, but that guy was really good at Air Force.
Are you talking about Paul Skeens? Or are you talking about Wilson?
Skeens.
Okay. Yeah, I actually had not heard about that. That's
he
crazy.
Was a wet hitter. He can hit for a lot of power, and he's a big dude, but I think he's going to focus on pitching. But that is a guy that I think has the ability. That's like I get like Mad Bum vibes, where it's like he's not a great hitter, but when he does, if he did get at bats, he would hit some tanks. Yeah,
I can see that. So here's some more information on Jacob Wilson, specifically against fastball. He has a 98% zone contact percentage. That's stupid, by the way. So if you throw him a fastball in the zone, he will hit it. 441 batting average. He slugged 677 with 528 WOBA, which is really good. They called him a slap hitter. They said his profile was like a slap hitter, and that does not sound like slap.
Sounds like
hitter.
David Fletcher.
Well, like he's getting exit velocities. Like his average exit velocity is like 100. Like that's low.
Average.
That's what they said for 90th percentile exit velocity. He's like
that's his 90th percentile.
Yeah.
So that's his top 10% percentile of exit velocity.
That is sort of a slap hitter profile, but like if you drive gaps at maybe they'll build the new Las Vegas stadium just specifically, and they'll like make an MLB The Show stadium.
The corners just like
they'll bring
the gaps. They just
they'll pull the gaps in so you can hit a bunch of home runs. I don't know. Maybe I feel like this is going to be a not for me. I don't really trust. I don't really trust that he is being drafted by the Oakland A's, who are a bad organization now.
Mm-hmm.
He is also he played in a weird. He played D1. Yeah, sure. And I'm not going to take away from his accomplishments. He's obviously the most superior player from that conference, but he's playing in a relatively weak conference because he plays for Grand Canyon. Yeah. But I mean, maybe I hope he'll prove me wrong. I'm not going to go into any of these picks, even if I say not, and I'm going to try to be like, oh yeah, this player's. I don't really like
Davis. We need more certainty. No waffling.
I'm waffling. I don't hate the players. I
hate them.
Yeah, I hate this guy. I specifically hate this guy.
Max Clark, least favorite player of all time. Right
yeah. Yeah, I'm going to go not with Jacob Wilson just because he could potentially be David Fletcher, like Jake said, and not really want to draft David Fletcher in the first round.
All right. Well, we can move on to wrapping up this top 10. We'll go to Rhett Lauder, who was taken 7th overall by the Cincinnati Reds. He's a 21-year-old right-handed pitcher out of Wake Forest with a 60 grade changeup and 60 grade control. He was pre-draft ranked by MLB Pipeline number 6. And the big thing here is his hair is really nice.
Yeah, it is. I like Rhett Lauder a lot. He
seems like a sicko.
Yeah, he's got he looks a lot like Mike Clevenger, which sucks because I don't like Mike Clevenger, but the look of Mike Clevenger, great. Long hair, sort of the wild delivery. This guy's changeup. Don't bark like that, Mr. Dog. His changeup's disgusting. It's one of the best changeups that we've seen basically since Jordan Wicks, I think it's like a 60, 65 grade changeup. And then Jordan Wicks, I think, had the last really, really high ranked one and get like a 70. But I like guys like this the changeup was one of the better pitches in college baseball. And then you potentially go add him to a future rotation with the Reds. That's like Nick Lodolo, Hunter Green, Graham Ashcraft, Rhett Lauder.
Yeah.
Like, that's a really, really good rotation.
Yeah, that's definitely the biggest thing there is that the Reds are looking crazy coming up. And if Lauder can make it to the big leagues in the next couple of years, right during the window of contention for the Reds to have the offense that they've been producing with further guys in the minors like Kristen Encarnacion Strand and a rotation that is already teaming with tons of young talent, Lauder could be just the final piece that makes them a juggernaut throughout the latter half of the 2020s. And yeah, he was incredible in the minor leagues or in college. He's just the second ACC pitcher ever to repeat as ACC pitcher of the year. And I think the Wake Forest took on LSU in the championship, right?
No. It was Florida. It was Florida and LSU.
Okay. So then he led them to it in 2022, I guess.
That might
Did
be
they win?
right.
2022 College World Series, Ole Miss versus I don't know what I'm saying. I guess he just took them into the tournament. I hate that they call the whole tournament the College World Series because it's really confusing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. But Rhett Lauder's changeup, really, really gross. So yeah, I think they had the College World Series. I think they lost to Florida or something like that. No, I'm looking at a different thing, but he was still really, really good throughout his entire career at Wake Forest, especially last year. I think he went like 15-0. He had like sub-2 ERA. Then changeup's really, really good. I think they graded it in the 60s, which I think is very unfair. It's really good.
Yeah.
I would think that's a little bit ridiculous, but yeah. I forgot about Andrew Abbott when I was talking about potential Reds like rotation pieces too. That rotation could be insanely good. Just if everyone pans out. Another one they got later on. I don't know if you looked into it either. In the 38th pick, they got Ty Floyd, who is another extremely good college pitcher. Yeah, they're gas. I really like this Reds draft.
Yeah, the MLB Pipeline had an article that came out recently where they ranked the best 2023 draft hauls, and they had the Reds number 1 with grabbing Rhett Lauder and Ty Floyd, and they also got Sammy Stafford, Cole Schoenwetter, Logan Van Treek, Connor Burns, and Ethan O'Donnell, and Carter Graham. That's a lot of names. I'm sure we'll look back on this podcast and be like, Jake really just skipped over Logan Van Treek like he was nothing, and now he's an MVP. Yeah. But yeah, I'm saying hot on Rhett Lauder. He set a school record with 143 strikeouts last year. You going hot as well?
Yeah, this was one of my favorite picks in the draft.
Great. And we can go on to Blake Mitchell, who was the number 8 overall pick by the Kansas City Royals. He's an 18-year-old catcher out of a high school in Texas. He has a 70 grade arm, and he was pre-draft ranked number 14. So that's the first real skirt of the pre-draft rankings. And I guess Royals sort of going under slot here, but interesting considering there was a better college catching option, and the Royals, I would guess, are hoping nearing not being awful, but I guess they could be in the same boat as the Tigers, where it's like we thought they were emerging and then they didn't. It's like the Groundhog Day. They didn't see their shadow, and so they went. Or is it, I forget how that one works. He went back. The groundhog went back. The groundhog in this situation is the Royals. They went back in their hole, and they're waiting for their next window of contention. And I guess they're hoping Blake Mitchell is the face of that.
Yeah, did you see the stupid Royals tweet where they showed the GM or whatever, the guy calling Blake Mitchell, and they asked him if he was ready to try to win a championship?
No, I didn't.
That man was lying through his teeth.
What did he say?
He literally just asked Blake Mitchell. He was like, "It's like we're gonna take you here." It's like one of the NFL ones. Like, we're gonna take you here. Are you ready to try to win a championship in Kansas City? You're lying through your damn teeth, buddy.
Yeah, he's not trying to win a championship. JJ Piccolo, that's the GM there.
Some bald dude. He's like, absolutely not. He's not trying to win anything. Yeah, I don't like this pick because Kyle Teal is still on board. Kyle Teal is best catcher
Yeah.
in the draft. It makes no sense. But potentially, maybe they know they're going to suck for a couple more years, and then they're going to be like, "Oh, we'll just let Salvi do it."
I mean, with the way they're
Or
playing
MJ
this
Morton.
year.
Yeah, they're awful.
Yeah.
The one real upside was they said in the like little press release that he hit 474 in high school, and he had like a 70. They said he got on base in 70% of his plate appearances.
How much was he walking?
They also said he walked 51 times to 8 strikeouts,
No way.
and he stole 35 bags.
35 bags. They give him a 35 run.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Although
Like,
he's a well below average runner. It literally says that on MLB Pipeline.
they said he's a relatively agile catcher. Also, he can throw. He can pitch a little bit. They might.
Yeah.
They've had some success. What's that guy's name? The guy really. Eaton. Is it Nate Eaton? Was he the one that threw?
Yes. Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, he can throw 97 from the mound. So he's got a good arm. He's got a 70 great arm.
Interesting.
He'll turn him into a player, and then people will care about the Royals. But
Yeah.
I don't know if they wanted a catcher, specifically a catcher. Kyle Teal was there. He's a better catcher. So I'm in between.
Yeah. I'm going not here. I'm not super sold on him. It doesn't seem like, I mean, you read off some of those stats from high school. That's pretty crazy, but you know, it's high school. We haven't seen a lot from him. Taking a high school catcher this early in the draft is pretty risky, especially with the player development in Kansas City. And obviously they want him to take over for Salvi once he's done there, but you know, it's going to be a few years until we see him. And I don't know. I don't know what the Royals are doing, but yeah, that was the first one. We got to number 8 and Blake Mitchell was selected. And I was like, I don't think the Royals know what they're doing.
Yeah, I would go hot on the talent for Blake Mitchell because if he can throw 97 from the mound, that's pretty sick.
Yeah, this guy seems like somebody who's going to transition to pitching in a couple of years.
Yeah, but I'm going to go not because the Royals took him and they can't develop anybody.
Yeah, well, speaking of teams that can't develop anybody, the Rockies, with the 9th overall pick, selected Chase Dollander, RIP, a 21-year-old right-handed pitcher out of Tennessee University of Tennessee. He has a 70 grade fastball. That's really good. And he was pre-draft ranked number 9. So the Rockies stuck with the pre-draft rankings here. And I think a lot of people were really high on Dollander. He landed with the Rockies, who are not only famous for being a pretty goofy organization, not great at player development, but they also play in Colorado with super high elevation, and pitchers don't usually survive there. And while Dollander can probably do pretty well, he's got a really good fastball. He's got a slider that should be able to help him out there. I don't know. It's hard to buy into the Rockies being able to pull this one out.
Yeah, he is the first Tennessee Volunteer taken in the first round by the Rockies since. Let me find it again. I think it was 1995. Who was that, Jake?
The first Tennessee Volunteer taken by the Rockies since 1995
in the first round.
Todd Helton.
It's Todd Helton.
Let's go.
Dollander is good, but he got drafted by the Rockies, so this is automatic not because they can't develop a pitcher to save their life. I did see a funny video though, and it was literally someone quote tweeted it said the Rockies are selecting Chase Dollander right now, and it literally just said Chase Dollander right now, and it was just a picture of Frank the Tank. It was the video of Frank the Tank screaming in the dark in his room. Nice. That one's really funny. I like Dollander. The fastball obviously really good. It's not super it's not like a 100-mile-per-hour plus fastball. Typically will sit like around 97, 98, 96, that range-ish. But it has a lot of ride. It's sort of like a Verlander fastball now. Mm-hmm. It's not like the old Verlander fastball. So it's got a lot of ride. And he throws a plus changeup and a pretty good slider. The only problem is in Coors, if you've not watched the Foolish Baseball video on this, you totally should. It's called Rocky Suck.
If you haven't watched all the Foolish Baseball videos, you probably should.
Yeah, that is also very accurate. But specifically for this point, this one makes most sense. With the Magnus effect, the only thing that ever really works in Coors are sweeping sliders and fastballs that don't have super high spin rates. Dollander sort of fits that, but not really. And I don't trust the Rockies to develop a pitching prospect if their life depended on it. So really like the player's talent. I hate the pick because the Rockies took it.
Yeah. So I'm going not. But until he is a free agent, signs with another team, and then hot AF.
Yeah.
I think he's got John Gray vibes where it's like super great college pitcher, goes to the Rockies. You see the talent, it's there, but the Coors just holds him back. And then as soon as he's let loose, then he goes off.
Yeah, I feel like that's really fair. I'll go not for the same exact reasons.
Cool. All right. Then we can wrap up the top 10 with the 10th overall pick, Noble Meyer. He was taken by the Miami Marlins. He's an 18-year-old right-handed pitcher out of a high school in Oregon. He's got a 60 grade fastball. MLB Pipeline had him number 8 pre-draft rankings. And I mean, this guy was one of the few guys that was at the draft alongside Jacob Wilson. So that was cool to see. Noble Meyer. He's a guy. He's 6'5", so that's cool. The Marlins already have a top prospect with the last name Meyer, so I don't know how that'll fit in, but that's Max Meyer. I think Noble Meyer that's a pretty sick baseball name. I mean, Noble Meyer sounds like that's going to be pretty good. So this is one where complete opposite of Royals and Rockies. This is one where it's like, if the Marlins can do one thing, it's develop ace pitchers. They've got just a litany of pitchers that they bring through there all the time that turn out really well. Sandy Alcantara, Edward Cabrera. I mean, Zach Gallen was going through their organization before he was traded to the D-backs. And I mean, yeah, I got to believe in the Miami Marlins pitching development. We won't see Meyer for 3 or 4 or 5 years, but I believe that the Marlins will actually turn Meyer into something pretty impressive.
Yeah, I really love this pick for the Marlins specifically because their pitching development is so good and he has the raw tools that are really ridiculous. If you have not watched him pitch, Jake, you can immediately sort of draw a comparison to Jacob deGrom because the pitch mix is very similar. He typically throws fastball, slider, and then every now and then he'll throw a changeup. But the reason he does that is because his fastball sits in the high 90s.
As a high schooler?
Yeah, it's high 90s. It's like 96 to 98, and he's hit over 100 several times. He also throws a slider, a high 80s slider, and it's consistently over 3,000 revolutions per minute of spin. It's ridiculous. He's got a wipeout slider and a crazy fastball, and his mechanics are really DeGrom-esque, super repeatable, and he's tall. He's 6'5" right now, and he's 18. So
he's got a weird arm angle.
Yes, he does. He's got it's almost like a three-quarter slot. Yeah, it's weird. But like the mechanics are DeGrom-esque besides that. He looks like he could really be a great starter. And if not, he'll be a wipeout reliever because high 90s fastball plus stupid slider. Those guys are always valuable. You see a cajillion relievers like that every single year do well. I really like this pick. Obviously, don't want to be a reliever, but yeah, I trust the Marlins on this one.
That's a hot. So to wrap up that top 10, I know we just spent like 45 minutes on the top 10, but I mean, I think it's worth it. I think it's fun to talk about the draft. But we both had Paul Skeens as hot. We both had Dylan Cruz as hot. I had Max Clark not. You had him hot. We both had Wyatt Langford hot. Walker Jenkins, did you say not?
I said,
I think we both went hot.
I think we both went hot. I said not.
But we don't know anything about him. Jacob Wilson, you said not. I said hot. Brett Lauder, we both said hot. Blake Mitchell, both said not. Chase Dolander, we both said not. Noble Meyer, we said hot. And so now we can look at the best of the rest. A lot of these are just the guys that went in the first round that were notable, either in terms of being reaches or in terms of being values at their picks or just notable guys in general. And then I had 1 second rounder. So if you wanted any, actually he was a supplemental first rounder, but if you got any second rounders, I didn't really look through it too much. I know there's that one guy that you mentioned earlier who went to I can't even remember what team you went to.
I talked about Ty Floyd a little bit.
Yohandy Morales also.
Yeah, and I talked about Yohandy Morales. I don't need to talk about them more.
Okay, so then we can start with Nolan Schanuel, which I'm not sure how to pronounce that.
That's right.
Sounds
Nolan Schanuel.
Close enough. Cool. He was the 11th overall pick by the Angels, and this one is on here because this was probably the most egregious reach in the first round. He's a 20-year-old first baseman out of Florida Atlantic University, 60 grade hit tool, pre-draft ranked number 26 by MLB Pipeline, and like I said, he went number 11. Seems like he's going to be just a first baseman. and that might be why he's ranked so low. He's not going to have that defensive ability, but it just seems like he's got like a very, very solid bat, high floor on the bat, and maybe he gets stuck at first base, but that's okay. The bat's going to play no matter what.
Yeah. Even though this was a reach in terms of the rankings, I love this pick. If you go and look into Nolan Schanuel, the only reason he played for FAU, so he played for Florida Atlantic. The only reason he did was because he literally wanted to stay home. It was like it's supposedly really close to his hometown, so he stayed at FAU. He's either going to be a first baseman or maybe a corner outfielder. His range is not very good in the outfield, but that's okay. He hit 447 at FAU, which is ridiculous. 18 doubles from this past season. 19 home runs. He walked. What do you think his walked strikeout ratio was, Jake?
Oh, I literally just saw it right as you said that.
It's 71 to 14. 71 walks to 14 strikeouts. Wow. That's about a 7% strikeout percentage, by the way. 7% whiff rate.
Yeah.
So he posted a 615 on base percentage in college, which is really good. Also, I feel like this sort of fits the Angels because they haven't really had a first baseman since Jared Walsh decided he was going to be good for that season, and then just decided he sucked again. So Nolan Schanuel probably fits in there. He's also supposed to be one that's more or less on the fast track. So I feel like we could – and the Angels have shown that they will call up guys like that. So you have Zach Neto, Ben Joyce, potentially Nolan Schanuel next year. I like this pick for them a lot. Maybe, I don't know. They probably lose Ohtani, but I feel like they still, even if they lose Ohtani, they have to maximize their window regardless because they have Trout. Yeah. So like they'll always take guys like this from this point on until they trade Mike Trout. So I feel like this was one of the better guys they could have got if they're going to fast track somebody. I like the pick.
Yeah, they've been really aggressive in terms of promotions the past couple of years. I'm pretty sure both of the last two drafts, they've called up the first guy from those drafts because my roster resource isn't loading. It was a starter. He was a right-handed pitcher. There it's loaded. They did call up. He's been in the majors. Sam Bachman, who was drafted, I think, in 2022. So he's been up really quick. But the guy that I was talking about, it was Neto this year, and then the year before was Chase Silseth. He was drafted. Yeah, he was drafted in 2021, and then he was the first one to be called up there. He's back in the minors, but that does display their willingness to call guys up when they believe they're ready. And, I mean, probably won't see him this year, but yeah, nobody blocking him at first base. I think this is a guy that could be up really quick. I think I'm going hot. I like it. I feel like it's a controversial pick in terms of where he was taken and in terms of calling him hot, but you know what? You just gotta, I feel like guys like this, where it's like, you just trust in the bat. It doesn't really matter how much they're going to provide. Maybe his WAR is going to be low because he's a first baseman. He's not a great fielder. He's not fast, but I think the bat's going to play.
I feel like the main reason he probably slid in the positional rankings is because he most likely only will play first baseman.
Yeah.
And you're going to lose a lot of value where if you took someone that's like, oh, they get drafted as like a shortstop or an outfielder or catcher. Like those guys inherently have more value than a guy that's like, yeah, this guy's only ever going to play first base. Like even when they drafted Torkelson with the intent of playing him at first or at third. And it's like very clearly this guy can't play third. He's going to play first. Like, but I feel like the bat is crazy. I feel like the power tool is really underrated. I feel like they gave him a 55 raw power, but it's probably going to play a lot higher. And I trust the Angels because their last two guys that they brought up, Neto and Ben Joyce, both pretty good until they got hurt. I would trust the track record, at least in the last few. I like this pick a lot.
Cool. Yeah. Then we can move on to the Cubs first round pick. They went 13th overall, and they took Matt Shaw, a 21-year-old shortstop out of the University of Maryland. He's got a 60 grade run. He was pre-draft ranked number 16 by MLB Pipeline. And when this happened, I sort of felt like it was a mid pick. Matt Shaw seems mid.
I just don't really get it because they have a lot of guys that are like Matt Shaw. They drafted him. Oh, they drafted him as shortstop. He's not going to play shortstop. Like that's not going to happen.
Yeah, with Dansby.
He's never. Yeah, especially with Dansby. He's never going to play shortstop. And even honestly, with Nico Horner, where are you going to play him now? Or you're either going to have to move Nico to third, or you're going to have to move this guy to an outfield spot or third. And I mean, he's like an athletic sort of guy. He's got like gap power. He doesn't hit like home runs, although he did hit a 507-foot grand slam this past season. He hit
24 home runs.
Yeah, I mean, he also played in Maryland. Maryland's a major hitter's park.
Really? Why
Yeah,
do you know
Maryland.
that?
I saw a tweet that said it. I believe him.
I was
Everything I
just
see
like,
on the
when
everything
did
I
you
see on
learn
the
stuff
internet is
about
true.
college baseball?
Everything that I saw, that was one of the knocks against him. They said he
Mhm.
more or less fits along the lines of like, yeah, he'll have gap power, but
Mhm.
Maryland is a major hitters park, and that sort of helps with the power numbers for him. I don't know. I want to believe in him because he's the draft pick from the team that I have, but
Yeah.
he's most likely going to be a second baseman guy. Um, and then what? Because you have a bunch of other middle infield prospects in your farm system. Like with the Cubs, like let me go literally look at their top prospects because they have a bunch of them in the top 20 already, like let alone
Mhm.
the top 30. Like they have Christian Hernandez, who if they bring up Christian Hernandez, who's their top hitting prospect, that's not in the outfield and not named Matt Mervis. So he's in their top 10. If you bring him up, he's going to have to play second. They have James Triantos, who they took a couple seasons ago. Also, that would have the same issue. He's either going to have to play third or second. Like Derniche Valdez. They have Pedro Ramirez, Chase Trump, and Ed Howard. Like they have a cajillion infielders that they've taken high in the last few years that now you're going to have to either trade or find something to do with it. Hopefully they can trade them for somebody that can help the team now. But the Cubs also like guys like this. They've done it in the last couple drafts where they've taken guys that are more or less underrated college players that sort of produce. Like, I mean, if you look at Nico Horner, everyone was like, oh, what's the deal with Nico Horner? And this feels like it could be a Nico Horner number 2. They took Jordan Wicks, who Jordan Wicks was like, oh, yeah, he was a good college pitcher, but he wasn't getting like the fanfare at the time of like a bunch of the other guys. I think he got taken in the same draft as like Asa Lacy and like Reed Detmers and like those guys. And then it's like, yeah, here's Jordan Wicks, weird dude with glasses, and now he's been he's flown up their top prospects list, and they have a deep farm. He's in their top 5 now, so I don't know. I mean, they like underrated college guys, so maybe he'll be good. I just don't really understand the roster fit, so I'm in between.
Yeah, I'm going not on this one.
I'm gonna go Hot because he plays for the team that I like, and I hope he's good. He's gonna be in the Hall of Fame someday.
Good call. So we'll go to the first real big steal from the draft. Wow, that's a lot of rhyming because we're going with Kyle Teel. Real big steal. Kyle Teel was the 14th overall pick by the Boston Red Sox, a 21-year-old catcher out of the University of Virginia. He's got a 65 grade arm, and he was pre-draft ranked number 7, and he went number 14. So it's a pretty good slot to get him for the Red Sox, and I think they got to be pretty happy with that. They don't have a lot of catching prospects. This guy can be the catcher of the future and probably should be up pretty quick. And then the Red Sox are sort of in that same vibe of the Brewers and Twins, where it's like they're looking to be competitive every year, but they have more money than those teams. They're in a different tier than those. So I think this is a really good pick. I clearly the top catching option, and he could be up really quickly, and then the Red Sox could clearly use him.
Yeah. So back on like the Cubs pick, this was the guy I was hoping they'd take. Like I was really hoping they'd get Kyle Teel. I like this pick a lot for the Red Sox. He's really good. He should have gone way earlier than this. I don't understand why he slid so far. Because he's power hitting, left-handed catcher. Like those don't just grow on trees. And I would trust the Red Sox with this. I really like this pick. They also later on in the draft, I don't know if you also saw it, they got one of his battery mates. They literally drafted Connolly early. So also out of Virginia later in the 5th. And he was really good with Kyle Teel. They had a really nice little battery going, and they'll be teammates again. So I think that's also a cute little thing. I'm also from Virginia, so I like Kyle Teel a little bit more than most because he's from the same state as me. So yeah, I really like this pick for the Red Sox. I'm going to go Hot.
Nice. Me too. I think that was a steal of a pick there for them.
Definitely.
And now we can go to my team, the Giants, making a pick at number 16 overall. They took Bryce Eldridge, an 18-year-old two-way player out of a high school in Virginia. And he's got a 60 grade arm, obviously, two-way player. And he was pre-draft ranked number 23. So a bit of a reach, but I remember Eldridge having a lot of hype heading into the draft, but I think that might have been more so from outside of the prospect expert realm, where this was one of the guys that we could actually legitimately see becoming a two-way player. This is the second year in a row that the Giants have taken a player that they designated as two-way in the first round. Last year they took Reggie Crawford, which I've not checked his stats. I don't know how he's doing right now, but Bryce Eldridge is legit. He's like 6'7", and I think this is a guy that, I mean, he's gonna work out one way or another, offensive end or defensive end. But I would love to see him be a two-way player.
Yeah, I would too. I feel like the two-way craze is getting some steam where teams are actually going to let guys like this get some free reign to try to do both, which is awesome. And I really want to see that. I feel like they maybe reached for him, but if this is a guy that could have potential like unicorn talent, I mean, you go for that. I feel like some of the value that he loses is that, like, if he's going to be a two-way player, like, he either has to DH or they're going to try to throw him at first, which is a little weird, and he's probably a little bit better as a hitter so far than as a pitcher, which obviously, I mean, he's got the physical tools. He's 6'7", he hits for power. I like this pick just because I want guys like this to be successful. Like, you know, you want the cool unicorn players like your Ohtanis and potential Ohtani lights to be great. And I trust the Giants' development. Like, they're one of the best teams at developing the talent that they have. So I would go hot on this one as well.
Yeah, I'm going hot on this one. I have more confidence in him than I have in Reggie Crawford. The Reggie Crawford has looked really hot on the mound so far this year. He's tossed 11 innings across 7 games, and he's got a 2.82 xFIP. He's striking out a lot of batters, 40% just about at A ball. He is 22 years old, so that's a little old for the level, and the bat isn't quite there. But I think they're developing him slowly, and he was dealing with some injuries. But I have a lot of faith in Bryce Eldridge. That was one of the few high school guys that I actually knew a lot about coming into this draft, and I'm pretty pumped to see what he can do. We can move on to number 17 overall, the next pick. Enrique Bradfield Jr. went to the Baltimore Orioles. He's a 21-year-old outfielder out of Vanderbilt, and he was pretty famous. Vanderbilt, one of the most famous programs right now in college baseball, and this is the fastest guy in college baseball. 80 grade run. We've seen 2 80 grade tools, and that's Skeens' fastball and Enrique Bradfield Jr.'s speed, and that helps him get a 70 grade fielding tool as well. He was pre-draft ranked number 21, and I'm with the new rules. This guy's gonna be crazy.
He's going to steal 847 bases a year.
Yeah, watch out, Ricky Henderson.
Extremely fast. He's a really good fielder. He's more of a slap hitter. He doesn't have much of any power, but he can drive gaps. Like, he's not a miserable hitter. And I don't know, a guy like this for a team that is right at their window to compete, super young, you could see him in a year or two. Obviously, he's going to play center, so they'll move like Mullins, but that's okay. I really like this. I liked him a lot too because, like, he's a version of a player that we just don't have that much anymore. But we're starting to get again and have them be successful, and I love that because he'll be a great fielding center fielder. He's extremely fast, and now we'll get to see him potentially just, you know, slap base hits, get on base, and then wreak havoc on the bases. I love that. I really like Enrique Bradfield.
Me too. I'm buying this one. Not sure the bat's going to stick, but if he's like a Gold Glove level defender and the fastest man in baseball, I'd love to see that. And gives you some little bit of Billy Hamilton vibes, but there's like the ceiling that the speed and a little bit of contact comes through. And he's like, I don't know, Kenny Lofton or something. Those are some of the comps that I've seen, but yeah, Gold Glove caliber defender with a ton of speed. I'm going hot here. He seems like he's an electric player.
Definitely.
Go ahead.
Before we move on that, he went 130. He got 130 steals on 143 attempts. The big thing with him too, I feel like he's not a good hitter, but he's got good patience. He walked more than he struck out, which for a guy like this is huge. He did lose a little bit because the hit tool sort of faded. But he still had a 410 on base percentage, which is really good. And he's on a team, he's on Vanderbilt. So he's got to be a great player to play for Vandy and start for Vandy. Plus, I mean, they win. So potentially brings a winner sort of vibe to the Orioles, who, I mean, they have great young players, but once you get guys like that with crazy mentality monsters, that's like the big thing for like soccer. It's like, oh, you want a bunch of mentality monsters. Maybe the Orioles could be this young team that's fired up, sort of like the Astros used to be, right when they were hitting their stride.
Yeah. All right. We can wrap it up with this trio of players. 21st overall, Chase Davis went to the St. Louis Cardinals. He's a 21-year-old outfielder out of Arizona, 60 grade arm tool, pre-draft ranked to number 22. And this is only notable for me because he's got a swing that is like a near perfect match to Carlos Gonzalez, who has one of the sweetest swings I've ever seen. And I mean, that's about it. I hope the Cardinals don't make him not fun, but this is a guy that I would love to see because, I mean, if you just got a swing that looks like a sweet swing from a player that had a great career, that gives you a pretty promising future.
It looks a little bit like Cargo's swing. Another swing that it really reminded me of is Jim Edmonds. If you've seen Jim Edmonds' swing, you could see the comps. He probably fell a little bit because he's most likely going to fall in a corner. Like he's going to play a corner outfield spot, which the Cardinals seem sort of loaded on guys like that right now. But if bat plays, it plays. They'll find a spot for him. I'm gonna go not because he plays for Cardinals though. So I hope he's not good until he leaves Cardinals.
Yeah. All right. Then we can do the last first round pick, and that we are going to talk about. And that's Hurston Waldrep, who went 24th overall to the Atlanta Braves. He's a 21-year-old right-handed pitcher out of the University of Florida. He's got a 65 grade fastball and a 65 grade splitter. He was pre-draft ranked number 19. And man, the Braves just keep getting lucky with young talent. I think Hurston Waldrep was consensus like top 5 college pitchers going into this draft, and to get him this late into the draft on a team that is already absolutely stacked in talent and is very good at player development. I mean, this is crazy. I mean, they can't keep getting away with this.
Yeah. I like this guy a lot. He's got this weird wonky splitter he throws that almost looks like a knuckleball. It's like a split. They called it like a split change. It looks like a knuckleball. It looks like a power knuckleball, which is ridiculous. He also has a slider. I know like we didn't really have that in like the notes. 65 grade fastball. He has a slider that's a 3,000 plus RPM slider also. So like this guy's got 3+ pitches already, and he's getting drafted by the Braves, who have developed like young starters like nobody's business. Like they literally just brought up AJ Smith-Shawver and Bryce Elder this year. Like it's getting ridiculous that these guys just get to do whatever they want, and they just let them be like, here's a cool guy you can have. Hurston Waldrep, also potential another 80 grade baseball name, especially for like a southern team with the Braves.
Yeah. I'm going hot here. I think that one's a lot of fun. I think, this is going to be a guy for sure. And the Braves are really lucky. And we'll wrap it up with a fun one. Not too much analysis here, but 39th overall, the Oakland A's took Miles Naylor, an 18-year-old outfielder out of a high school in Ontario. He was pre-draft ranked number 64, so it was a pretty substantial reach. But if his name does sound familiar, that's because it should be. He is the third and final brother of the Naylors, Josh Naylor, Bo Naylor, and now Miles Naylor. And I've seen things that he is the best athlete of the three. And I mean, Josh Naylor looking like he's been one of the best hitters in baseball this year. Bo Naylor, catcher coming up. He's already had that one highlight reel play where he no-scoped a guy at second base, and Miles Naylor coming up as an outfielder. I'm excited to see what the A's can do with Miles Naylor.
Yeah, I think they have him like ranked as like an outfielder, but he was playing third base. And I will forever curse the Oakland Athletics for not letting him fall or reach the Guardians again. Because that would have been so sick if they had Miles Naylor, Josh Naylor, and Bo Naylor all on the same team playing at the same time. So like that would have been cool. But yeah, he's pretty cool. He's got a lot of power, sort of swings it like Josh, but I think he's a righty. I think Bo and Josh are both lefties, and he's like the only righty. Oh,
64. Yeah, he is a righty. That is correct. Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do. I think he could actually be legit, but that will wrap up our draft coverage. We spent like an hour on that, which, fun, but that will take away a little bit of our time as we recap the All-Star game, discuss the home run derby, and maybe if we have time at the end, give a couple second half predictions. We got more than enough time to predict the second half during it.
Yeah. But as you saw it yesterday, we had the All-Star game. We talked about it a little bit, but we can recap the All-Star game.
Yes.
Obviously, it's in Seattle. Duh. They had Ken Griffey Jr. and Edgar Martinez throw out the first pitch.
Right. Yeah, I mean, couldn't pick two more perfect guys there. The guys that built Safeco Field, T-Mobile Park now, I guess. But yeah, that was pretty cool to see. I think Griffey being continuously celebrated as like one of the like faces of MLB, I think is great. I mean, it's crazy that MLB is just like so bad at marketing their players. They have to go back to the guy that was the only guy they've ever been able to market in Ken Griffey Jr. And they're just like, yeah, 50 years old, we need you back, Ken. You're the only one that can do it. He was the guy that said the first pick of the draft as well. They had him go up to the board. Who the Pirates selected. So yeah, they're big Ken Griffey Jr. fans, but I love it. I think he's a great guy. He's an amazing baseball player. And I think it's cool to have, representation other than white people as well.
Definitely. And then we had a nice little moment. This also went along with the home run derby too. And this was sort of, if you're a Cardinals fan, look away, because Randy and Adolis Garcia both made nice little catches at the wall, reminding everybody, because they kept saying it on the commentary and everywhere else too, that they used to play for the Cardinals at literally every single level but the big league team, and now neither one of them are there.
Yeah, that was pretty sick to see. It was like back-to-back catches to like start the game too. It was pretty crazy. Randy and Adolis. Adolis's catch didn't really seem like he needed to do that, and then he did that again later in the game. So I think he just the shadows, you were talking about that last week, but I think the shadows were pretty bad out there. But made the catches, made it look fancy. So yeah, good way to start the game. Those guys are two of the most exciting, underratedly exciting players in the game.
Definitely. Big fan of both of those guys. And then we had another underrated guy that's sort of getting his flowers this year. Yandy Diaz hit a dinger. And then this would be crazy like in the last few years, because he never did that. But he's been doing that pretty good this year. Yandy hit a nuke in the All-Star game.
Yeah, and that broke the scoring, that broke the 0-0 tie there. So great to see Yandy do it on the big stage. I think he's a really fun player. Yeah, I always thought he was fun, even when he was hitting a lot of ground balls, because he has just got the biggest guns in baseball, and one of the guys that walks just about as much as he strikes out. So he's fun to see. He's already got 13 home runs on the season, which, if Fangraphs wouldn't be the slowest it's ever been for me, then maybe I could see what he's done for the rest of his career. He is one off of his career high. This man, yeah. I mean, Yandy Diaz hitting 20 home runs. That's legendary type stuff right there. 165 WRC plus. It was cool to see him do it in the All-Star game as well. Show everybody what he's got.
Definitely. Also, unrelated to the All-Star game, but still related to Yandy Diaz. Right after the All-Star game, he flew back to Tampa because his wife was in labor. So he got to have his first child, which is really, really cool. Yeah. And it's Yandy Diaz.
Imagine him with dad strength.
Oh my God. He's hitting 50 home runs the second half.
Right? Yeah. That'd
be awesome.
It would be awesome.
Sick. But Yandy Diaz, really good. A guy that everyone has been talking about, not an underrated guy, but still underrated, it seems. Luis Arias, 2 for 2. 2 for 2 in the All-Star game. Should count towards his average. Put it on there.
Literally what I was going to say. Yeah. So he's still going for 400 and showed it off in the All-Star game. I don't think he's going to make it, but I think that really is a great encapsulation of the first half. He did it on 2 pitches too. He swung at the first pitch and blasted them for hits. So I think Luis Arias, one of the best pure contact hitters, maybe the best pure contact hitter in baseball this year.
Yeah. Dog is freaking out. He's actually the only player with multiple hits in the All-Star game on the only pitches he saw since they started tracking that pitch data at all.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. Shout out to Sarah Langs for that stat. Just saw that.
The GOAT.
Yeah,
the GOAT.
Definitely.
Why are you looking out over there, bud?
I think he's letting us know we forgot to talk about Luis Ariz. Or maybe he wants to talk about the MVP. We're getting there.
We're getting
Sorry.
there.
Um,
No, that's the boy. That's the big one. He's the one barking.
okay.
But I'll let you talk about this next one because this is one of your players.
Sure. Yeah. The can't hear myself think. The Giants had Camilo Doval throwing this game. We also saw Alex Cobb throwing the game, but Doval came in. He was throwing heat, throwing 100 miles per hour multiple times. And as the National League took home the win for the first time since 2012, Camilo Doval was the one to earn the dub in the box score. And he was the first pitcher to earn the win for the National League in the All-Star game since a former Giant, Matt Cain, back in 2012. So that was pretty cool to see the parallels there. Camilo Doval throwing 100 miles per hour and getting the win right after, first time since Matt Cain.
Definitely a cool little stat to have there. I always liked seeing in the last couple of days, since like yesterday in the game ended, like all the stuff like the last time since the NL ones, like stuff from 2012.
Yeah.
Like, I always thought that was pretty cool. And Doval has been really, really good this season, and it's good to see him get the first win for the NL. Since both of us are NL fans, it feels like a rivalry, but it's not really. It's like, but I still want the NL to win because they just never do.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that they did. And then another guy got to close out the game. Craig Kimbrell sort of had a heart attack in like the ninth inning, but
oh my gosh,
got it done somehow.
Well, I was rooting for him to blow it because when Julio Rodriguez was up as the go-ahead run in Seattle facing Craig Kimbrell with 2 outs in the bottom of the ninth, and then it got to 3-2, I was like, we are like so close to having one of the best moments, not even just all-star game moments, one of the best moments in baseball history if Julio walks that off, and unfortunately he got walked, so that was too bad. But Kimbrell successfully, it's been cool to see him rejuvenate his career this year.
Definitely. And then another guy that sort of rejuvenated his career because he's been like a journeyman, and then this year gets to be the lone representative of the Colorado Rockies, Elias Diaz. Wins All-Star Game MVP. We sort of talked about him and not like really slagged him off, but like we were like, yeah, he got a spot because they had to put somebody from the Rockies there. Right. It's like he's like, yeah, I'll show you bums. Mm-hmm. And then he goes and goes off and wins All-Star Game MVP. So congratulations to Elias Diaz, making us look like a bunch of idiots and representing the Rockies. Maybe they'll give him $800 quadrillion now.
Yeah, that's our team. Represent, 2-run home run to give the National League that 3-2 lead that would stand for the rest of the game. I mean, we all expected this when we heard Elias Diaz was selected, that he would be the guy to take home this honors. And, you know, I'm excited to see who they could get at the trade deadline for him. I mean, Elias Diaz straight up for Shohei Ohtani makes a lot of sense to me. The Angels might have to throw in a little extra, but I mean, yeah, he's at the height of his trade value after that.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw the video because they took his since he's an All-Star Game MVP, they take that jersey to the Baseball Hall of Fame, and he was like freaking out, like so stoked, like
that he's going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, like fanboying over the moment. That's like I love that. It's so cool to see like a human moment for that, and it's really great to see a guy that is having a career year with the Rockies. You know, they're a bad team, and getting a nice moment there. It's really nice for Elias Diaz. I'm really happy.
Yeah, it was sick.
Yeah. And then we have last thing we really had to talk about, unless we get to the time to have the second half predictions, is of course the home run derby, which we did the draft for. We did the draft for last podcast, Jake.
No, I forgot. Did I win?
I think you won. You had Vlad.
Let's go.
You had Vlad, and that was like the only one that did anything.
So poorly. Wow.
You did.
Everyone else. No, everyone else the guy. I drafted perfectly.
Everyone else did real bad.
Matters. Yeah, that's crazy.
So we can run it down by round. And from the first round, we started it with the friends from the friend team. Randy Arozarena and Adolis Garcia faced off in the first round. And Adolis Garcia had probably one of the worst BP throwers that I've seen in a long time.
Yes. Great pitcher, terrible BP thrower.
Yeah, completely trashed him.
He was throwing some nasty pitches.
Yeah, trashed him. He only hit 17 home runs, and he fell to Randy Arozarena who hit 24. And then the next round was one of the craziest ones I've seen in a long time. And it was Luis Robert, or Lou Bob, as Jake has fit into the little rundown against Adley Rutschman. And Luis Robert beat Adley by 1 home run, 28-27. But Adley hit his entire – Adley's obviously a switch hitter. He hit his entire round until the bonus as a lefty, and then he did his bonus round as a righty and got to 27 home runs, which is crazy. Yeah. And then Luis Robert went off. I think he hit the most home runs in the first round.
No,
he didn't.
Close.
Not even close, but it was the second most.
Yeah. He had the longest home run, though.
He had the longest home run, and he hit a bunch of nukes. He hit the longest home run of the round, 470, beat Adley by 1. That was kind of unfortunate. I would have liked Adley to keep going and switch hitting through the entire thing.
Well, I was glad that he at least did that, because then he sort of made headlines doing that.
Yeah, that's true.
So I was glad he did that, because he got knocked out so quickly. But yeah, Adley looks like the real deal. That was so sick. He switched to right-handed seamlessly and then blasted 7 out of 8 pitches out of the ballpark. It was very cool. But Luis Robert, 470-foot home run. I mean, this was the guy who – did you do the bracket beforehand, the bracket challenge?
I did not do the bracket.
Okay. There's one question at the end. They do a bunch of tiebreaker questions at the end, and one of them is like, who hits the longest home run? And then they ask like, how long is it going to be? Which that's hard to guess. But I had Luis Robert as hitting the longest home run, and there was nobody even close. We had a couple 450-foot home runs, but I mean, Luis Roberts, he hit 470, and then he hit one further than that in the second round.
He hit a few 470, and before he hit a few 470, he had like a 461 and like a 458 or something like that. He had a few that were like nukes.
Yeah.
And then
he looked like he was taking it easy.
Yeah, he really did. And then the next round, one of these guys looked like he was taking it easy, and the other one completely blew it.
Well, I mean, you could say the guy that lost was taking it easy.
At one point, yeah.
He didn't take his time out.
He said at the end, though, that it wouldn't have helped. And to be fair, it wouldn't have. This one was Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who hit 26 versus Mookie Betts in his gargantuan 11 home runs.
Hey, man, that's more than we can hit.
Yeah, it is. That's true. Mookie he really struggled.
Outmatched.
He just got trashed.
I
thought he would have had a chance. Like,
I thought he was gonna surprise,
really tap into the power a little bit, but he just he couldn't do it.
No, he didn't.
JD Martinez interviewed him. He's like, you need to pull it to left. He's like, I don't know how. I can't do that.
Yeah. So that's fine. I didn't want a Dodger to win anyway, but yeah, Fair enough. Vladdy deserved to move on.
Fair enough. And in this next round, obviously the hometown boy Julio Rodriguez hit 41, the most in the single round record. He broke the record with 41 single round home runs. And then against Pete Alonso, the guy that I had to win the whole thing again. He destroyed him. Pete Alonso also had kind of a bad PP thrower.
Yeah.
21. Got beat by 20 by the guy he lost in the final two last year.
Yeah, so that single round record breaks the 40 that Vladdy hit back in 2021. And and Pete had like a last second change of his derby pitcher. I know he had Joust for the first couple of years he was there, and that guy was really good. And then last year he had a different guy, and then that guy was like sick this year or something, or maybe he had elbow. I don't remember what it was, but yeah, he had to do a different pitcher, and then it sort of screwed everything. I think Pete is probably pissed and wants to just quit, because this is like the most important thing to him. I don't think he cares about the World Series. I think he cares more about the home run derby. But Julio really put on a show, and I was glad he did that at his home ballpark in Seattle.
That's right. But that was really cool. That was a nice little moment to see J-Rod go off like that. Pete Alonso, I feel like he takes this like way too seriously. Everyone keeps posting the meme. I always like the meme now of him like taking the breather and like locking in with like his eyes closed. I really like people turning those into the different memes. Like I saw one that was like Manny Machado before he goes into the ground to do a double play derby. I
saw that for Starling Marte.
Starling Marte hit a ground ball to shortstop derby. That one was pretty good too. It was good. I feel like this setup probably the best that we could have hoped for in terms of guys to get out of the first round.
Yeah.
Other than like maybe Adelise, but Randy kind of showed out, as we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
We had the semifinals here. Luis Robert and Randy Arozarena. Luis Robert hit 22. And this guy, dude in the boots, Randy Arozarena, hit 35. They
Mhm.
said like before his 24, I think like the most he was like ever hitting was like 19 or whatever in his practice
Mhm.
rounds. And then he just turned it up, 35 home runs in another round. Luis Roberts still had the longest home run, 484. That was an absolute bomb. And I think he hit
That's
it
the
to
thing.
like left center too. It wasn't even like pulled that bad. I think it was to left center.
Yeah, I mean
Most of
that.
his were to left center, actually.
Yeah, that MF Randy really pulled through. 35 is one of the most we've seen. I think that puts him in the top 5 of all time. But yeah, really, really great round there from Randy, and that was cool to see him go into the final round. I think he's got a great personality that's conducive to making baseball exciting because he does not care when and where he celebrates. He's gonna cross his arms. He's gonna have the cowboy boots, and he's gonna be an electric player. And he really was that throughout the home run derby.
Definitely a big Randy guy. I really like Randy Arozarena. And then this next round was Vladimir Guerrero Jr. versus Julio Rodriguez. And Vladdy did beat the hometown boy 21-20, pretty tightly contested round.
Yeah, it looked like Julio was running out of gas after setting
Yeah.
the single round record, which was unfortunate. But I mean, he's done it again. He made a name for himself last year by winning Rookie of the Year, but also by having just a huge home run derby, and he did it again this year. And I think it's just a matter of time before he wins the whole thing. I wonder if he'll do it again. But yeah, Vladdy just barely eked him out, and he was also looking gassed. But I think he was able to use the leverage that he has in his larger body to just barely surpass him.
Definitely. And we sort of saw the same thing here in the finals as Vladimir Guerrero Jr. did beat Randy Arozarena 25-23. I feel like this was one where it was going to be like, I thought it would be a little bit closer. Like at the start, I'm like, okay, like everyone's like, oh, Vlad will probably trash Randy. Like it'll be kind of close. 25-23, Randy just sort of ran out of gas. He got to his bonus time, and I think he hit I don't think he hit one out in his bonus time.
Yeah, it was so close. I think he was going too fast.
He was. And he just sort of ran out of gas. Longest home run of this round was 445. I'm pretty sure that was Vlad's.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it was cool to see Vlad win. I think he really deserves it. He became the first father-son pairing to ever win the home run derby because his dad won back in the day. That was in San Francisco, actually. I think it was 2007. But yeah, that was pretty cool to see Vladdy do that. He barely hung on because Randy went second, and he was so close to beating him out, like you said. But it was a pretty exciting home run derby. I wouldn't say the most exciting, but there were moments where it was like really cool. Like we said, Luis Robert hitting some big blasts, Adley Rutschman switching sides, Julio Rodriguez big 41 home run round, and then just the battles throughout the semifinals and the finals were very fun to watch. I think the home run derby is the best all-star game, is the best all-star break activity out of all of the sports. And I think
I agree.
MLB All-Star Game is actually the best All-Star game too, because the other ones they don't really play. I love that MLB they take it easy where they're not trying to get injured and stuff, but like the game doesn't matter anymore. And you still got guys out there throwing 100 miles per hour. Like not only do they want to win, they want to show off how good they are. And part of that is just playing the game to the best of your ability.
Right. I really like the MLB All-Star Weekend compared to all the other sports ones. Like I do wish that Major League Baseball would do more of like the skills challenges, like just make the whole All-Star day and then have the home run derby.
Just do more stuff.
Yeah. Do the home run derby at the end of the day. And literally before that, do like, in Japan, they do the bunt competition, like bunt into the ring. Like that's kind of cool. Do different skills challenges. Because even in like the NBA has stuff like that. They have the skills challenge, they have the 3-point contest, and they have the dunk contest, which the dunk contest isn't that good anymore because you don't have like big stars doing it. But like do more cool stuff like that. And I feel like the MLB All-Star game, like week really even would be like a lot more hyped up because everyone was like, oh, a home run derby is cool. And this home run derby was great. It wasn't, like Jake said, it wasn't like the best one of all time, but this one was good. There weren't many rounds where like the other guy genuinely just got overmatched outside of Vladdy trashing Mookie, which that one's just like, that was kind of a weird. In hindsight, maybe putting Mookie Betts in the All-Star Derby was like in the home run derby, a little weird, but sure. It was a good All-Star break. What do you think before we keep moving? What do you think of the camera angle for the home run derby? Because I thought it was terrible.
Just like on the players?
Just like on the player where you're not actually seeing them hit home runs and it's literally just like, oh, they hit. And then it's just like a counter going up. Like they did the literal last round with Randy. And I think they had the camera switch one time to see balls like get out of the stadium or like twice. It's literally just like you watch Randy hit and a ticker goes up. It's like,
yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like I do like the new format and it's been a lot more exciting. You get this.
I like the format. I don't like the camera.
You get this different level that you didn't have in the previous format, but yeah, I think there's things to fix, but I'm not sure what they are, or if I do know what they are, I don't know how to fix them. And I'm sure they got tons of people brainstorming because this is such an exciting event. But I'd love to be able to appreciate the home runs more. I'd like to be able to see them. I'd like to be able to have better camera angles and stuff. Just in the future, just make it like a VR only thing where you can only see it in VR, and then everybody has to get VR and like you get to stand there at home plate and watch them do it or something. I feel there's definitely ways where they can make it really cool, but yeah, I think it's got a bright future.
Give me the VR experience to be that kid that ate the liner off of Vladdy.
Oh my God, bro. R.I.P.
Yeah,
that kid won the concussion contest for sure.
Yeah, that kid won the concussion derby for sure.
Yeah,
like I hope he's okay. Let's not clown him. That is a little kid.
On him. Yeah, he's not going to college.
The craziest part about that was I literally was looking at Twitter and Kevin God was like, he literally tweeted it like 5 minutes before it happened. He's like, I don't know how some of these kids that are shagging balls for the home run derby don't just get smoked by a liner. And it's literally 5 minutes later and that kid just got nailed. And he's like, I shouldn't have even said anything. He's like, that jinxed it.
I saw a funny one. They said like, get those kids off the field, like get Zach Campbell on there, get Zach Campbell out there and let him put on a show.
Yeah, that would be sick. Let him eat that liner. That'd be really dope.
That guy sucks. I hate Zach Campbell.
That guy really sucks.
I want him to get hit by a 115 mile per hour.
I'm not gonna say that because I'm gonna be a nice man. Yeah, and
survive
is fine. I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that.
Don't want him to die.
But that's it for our All-Star festivities. Is there anything that we need to cover still?
No, I think that's good. It was a fun week. Now it's time to get back on the grind of the fantasy baseball season and watching the baseball, and now it gets fun. I mean, I think second half of July. I don't know. July is interesting. It's like this is the dog days of summer for me in general, but there's so much going on with the All-Star break and home run derby and everything, the draft and everything. And then right after that, you're 2 weeks away from the trade deadline. And that's a lot of exciting stuff. So then August is more dog days of summer where it's like, all right, we're past all the exciting stuff. We're super deep into the season. We're still 2 months away from playoffs. And now it's like, okay, we've watched a lot of baseball. But yeah, that's I mean, in terms of fantasy, guys, that's when it's really important to bear down. And that's when you try the hardest is in August. But yeah, we're getting there. I think July is probably the best month of baseball alongside April and October. But yeah, should be a great second half.
Definitely. Do you want to do the second half predictions, or you want to hold that off for the next spot?
Let's hold that off. I gotta eat some dinner.
All right, cool. We're done now. Go away. So that's all we have for this edition of the Free Baseball Podcast presented by the Athletes Hub. If you want to follow me on Twitter.com, I'm not on the other one that Mark Zuckerberg does. Whatever it's called, the Reds. I'm not making one either. You can follow me on Twitter at DVSBird. You can follow Jake Crumpler at Jake Crumpler because that's his name also. You can also go check out all of his work on the multitude of sites he writes for, like Pitcher List, because Pitcher List is great. And especially if you want to go support that dude, go read his new article because it's really good. And if you want to win your fantasy baseball league, it is great. Tell them about it now, Jake.
Yeah, I just wrote an article talking about players you should target for the second half, whether it's guys that you can trade for that are rostered in the majority of leagues or guys that you can go pick up off the waiver wire. You got options for every single position, multiple starters, relievers, everything you could want there. Got a sister article coming out next week, players that you should be selling, players that you should be dropping, basically the opposite of that. Yeah, so that definitely helpful there. But yeah, you can find all of my work at crumplerbaseball.com. pitcherlist.com, baseballhq.com, right, for both of them. And we do this podcast for the athleteshub.org.
Yeah, you can also follow the Athletes Hub on Twitter at Athletes Hub. And if you do that, you also get to know when all of our new articles are getting posted on that site and whenever this podcast goes live, which we usually do around this time on Wednesday at 9:30-ish Eastern Standard Time, 9-ish, 9:30-ish, something around there. But you'll actually know when we do go live if you follow that Twitter and click the little bell so you get the notifications every time that they post, which is really helpful. If you want to go check out the stuff on Athletes Hub, it's really great because it's made by it's just guys like us. So it's guys that want to break into the sports journalism sphere or sort of like on the fringe, sort of doing stuff like that. And a lot of stuff just from a fan perspective. And they're all really digestible, really readable. It's great. If you really want to go check out stuff that will help you win fantasy baseball leagues, check out stuff on like Pitcher List, especially stuff like Jake. It's my first year doing that, doing fantasy baseball. I'm in their home league now.
Davis is really good for a first timer.
I'm doing good, and it's specifically because I'm reading all of the articles on PitcherList.com.
That's right. That's how you do it.
That's genuinely not cap. That is actually true.
No,
so
I know I can vouch for it.
Yeah,
I that's what helped me before I started writing for them. I read all of their articles.
Yeah, so go do that and check back in with us next Wednesday so we can talk more baseball, second half predictions, and stuff for the trade deadline. Maybe.
That's right.
But